Sure. I'll talk it out.
Yeah, let's just have a conversation.
Track 3.
Better not be fucking Dave Matthews Band.
Okay. Those of you who don't want to be a part of this can leave now.
Derek, please listen to me.
But if you choose to stay, which it seems like you guys are choosing,
Derek, please.
you understand and agree to the following terms and conditions.
Derek!
1.
Derek, this is the virus.
You hereby waive your right
Derek, please.
to your own personal bodily integrity.
This is not you.
2.
I'm a life.
Per the State versus Neville Reed, my colleague and I will not be held criminally liable for any felony or misdemeanor that you may be a victim of, including, but not limited to, aggravated assault, aggravated battery, disorderly conduct, destruction of property, mayhem, and first-degree murder. And 3, terms and conditions may change or be updated whenever the fuck I want! Consider yourselves notified.
What up, everyone? DJ Anubis.
And DJ Neko.
Here with you on Global Unscripted, episode 3, where we talk all things politics, social drama.
Yeah.
What's that?
I said, yeah.
Yeah. Crazy shit all over the web. And today we have a couple topics. We're going to only spend about maybe 30 minutes, I hope, on the first one. The second one has a lot more to unpack. And of course, we have 2 crazy cats running around, so there may be some distractions here and there. That's why it's unscripted.
I know.
But I found something out just like 10 minutes ago that I don't have any backstory on yet, so maybe it's something we'll talk about down the road. But apparently, you remember Rachel Dolezal? The woman that says she was black, but she was white.
Oh, yeah.
So
She changed her name to something, though. It was like...
But apparently, and I don't know any details. I only saw like a quick subtitle on a video, but apparently she was fired for doing OnlyFans.
Okay, but I don't think she had a job, did she? Like,
I don't know.
because at one point she was like, I thought she was a professor and like.
Yeah, she was part of the. Is it the NCAAP that she was with? Like a faction of it.
Yes,
because she was like an administrator or something, and that's when all the shit got unraveled. Anyway, I'm curious about that because in fact it's Amala that was actually investigating it, so she's gonna.
Wait, I'm just like, because I didn't really think she had a job, like in general.
Well, that could be why she was doing OnlyFans, but I think that's maybe she had another job that wasn't as big or something, but I don't know.
Or maybe she started teaching again. Maybe like somebody was like, okay, enough times has passed, and she's changed her name. And
right, because the education's obviously there, but it's a matter of like whether or not she can be trusted with being truthful about anything. Of course, if you're doing OnlyFans, that's not a good look either. If you're trying to teach, so I don't know. I don't know the story.
You're gonna have to look it up real fast. Just get the story right now, because now I'm curious and I won't be able to focus. So like 10-second, like
All right, let's see.
Because you brought that up, and now I'm like, I really need to talk about this crazy bitch. I remember she was like, yeah, I'm totally black, and she actually got perms to make her hair like curly, and wow. I mean, more power to her, but I feel like that was completely deceptive because
woman formerly known as Rachel Dolezal fired from teaching gig over OnlyFans account. So she was clearly teaching somewhere, and
she was also like, when she was doing this, she was using her fake black heritage to her advantage. Like she was getting I thought she got a scholarship.
She did.
And
yeah, she took one that was meant for black people. and used it for herself.
I personally,
And it wasn't that she probably wasn't doing good work for the NCAA.
she was doing good work, and she was like, part of
But
the
when
Black
you
Student
see her
Union and
actual
everything.
look, she is a white blonde girl, or was. And even now, I think she still just says, "Yeah, I identify as black." So
she's transracial, I guess. Is that the new thing?
well, maybe. I mean, look, they're doing. There's so much muddied water now with gender and everything else that, like, and I can't see how Black America really wants to accept that.
They don't
Like,
want to accept her.
well,
Crazy.
that's what I mean. Like, but when we have all these other muddied waters, like, it's almost to the point like you can't deny her. Like, what are you going to say to her? Like, well, you can call yourself whatever gender you want, but we can't call whatever race we want. Like, it's kind of weird. Anyway,
that was
yeah,
enlightening. But
yeah,
I figured she was probably teaching or something, because that's like the no. Like, if
yeah,
you're teaching, you don't want to be like
yeah. So she can't seem to escape the hot water wherever she's going.
and I'm wondering if she still is identifying as
Possibly.
African American, or at least she was saying her father was black and her mother was white.
I think they're
So-
both white though.
They're both white. She was denying that they were her parents, and then I don't know. Anyway, we can get into that. We will
We'll do that another time.
table that,
Yeah.
and we will put her on for a discussion, because when that whole thing broke, I watched the docs, I read the news. I don't know. Not that I'm like making fun of her. I was just, what possesses a person to completely change and live a lie just in general, but something to that extreme. And it was so clearly a cry for help.
Right.
And then there was a huge fall from grace, and she was basically poor for a while. So we will touch on her at a later date.
Yeah, and we were supposed to have Mr. Tony the Dead join us, or at least it was kind of in the plans, but he couldn't make it.
Buddy, I haven't talked to you in a while. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm still hoping to do some collaboration with him going forward. So whether it's on this channel or his, we're gonna.
We know he's been really busy. I know he's got 2 young kids, and he does a lot of the primary care during the week, like school runs and stuff. And so he's also busy. I've been busy. You've been busy. It's been, life is busy, and it's easy for us to do stuff together because we literally live together. So we can hang out anytime we want.
Right. So the first topic I want to get to is, for those that don't know, Sunny Hostin is one of the hosts on a show called The View. It's been around for a long time.
So she's okay.
She's a regular.
God, I can't tell you the last time I watched The View.
Whoopi Goldberg's on there.
Still on there. Okay.
Joy Behar.
Because wasn't Sharon Osbourne on there?
Yeah, for a while. I think Barbara Walters was at the beginning. I think I'm pretty sure.
I think The View has been on, and I think Barbara was like one of the originals.
Rosie O'Donnell was there for a while, and but you've had different people come and go. But but the thing about Sunny is she's a Black woman, at least with mixed heritage.
We're all mixed. Come on, let's think about it.
But she is
we're Americans.
She's generally a race baiter and somebody who oftentimes will say racist things about whites because she believes in reparations, right?
You're saying that she's racist towards white people?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at least when you listen to her talk and the things that she says, she's very anti-white. Yeah.
Okay.
Now she might come out and say she's not, but the reality is your words kind of define who you are.
And she just might be framing things in a way that makes
But when you listen to The View anyway, a lot they have white people on there. They're catty and all this other shit.
And that's true. They all flame each other and get everybody all wound up.
But anyway, there's this thing that's been going on recently where this gentleman has been doing, which is like, I forget the name of the show, but
the genealogy.
Yeah, they go back
tree.
and check out your ancestors.
Like professionalancestors.com.
So Sunny participated in this. And so I've got clips of not only the results of that, but then a segment of The View where Sunny is talking about it, and she kind of doubles down. Like there's like this moment where ever since this has been exposed, people have been coming down on Sunny like, well, you want reparations, you better get that money ready,
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so we're going to take a look at these real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it.
Okay. I'm a little bit in shock. I just always thought of myself as Puerto Rican, half Puerto Rican. I didn't think I was. My family was originally from Spain and slaveholders.
Yeah. So,
and
how
they
are you
went
feeling,
to
my friend?
Puerto
I
Rico.
just, I think it's actually pretty interesting that my husband and I have shared roots.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate that. And I think it's great for our children to know this information.
Yeah, she looks highly depressed.
Like, I was a slave owner.
I guess it's a fact of life that this is how some people made their living.
So you mentioned your mom was
Now, I will say this. So we see this girl in the blue on the right. Now, and we see Joy in the middle. During this part of the clip, just take notice of what they say, because you're gonna probably be like, if you catch it, I want to see if you catch what they say in
thanks.
regards to how Sonny feels about reparations.
Okay.
upset and this was shocking and maybe deep down you kind of resisted it. How has this changed you knowing what you're hearing now?
You know, I think at first I was deeply disappointed.
The slave thing is a bummer.
It's a bummer. And I
She can control it.
First thing.
I still believe,
know, but
I still
still,
believe in
it's like,
reparations, by the
whoa.
way, so y'all can stop texting me and emailing me and saying that I'm a white girl and that I don't deserve reparations. I still believe that.
Someone just
Yeah, you don't deserve reparations. If you own slaves, no.
that too.
Yeah.
I don't know who sent her a thing telling her she was a white girl.
Okay, it's too much, people.
But clean off your television screen.
Yeah, that's a lot. So I still believe in reparations. I still believe this country has a lot to do in terms of racial justice. But what I will say, Sarah, to your question is that I feel that I'm enriched by knowing that history.
Yeah.
I'm enriched, and I'm enriched by knowing that my family has come so far from being enslavers to my mother marrying my father in 1968.
Well, yeah, that's right.
I feel enriched.
That's right. You're not responsible for what they did.
Second thing.
What did she say?
You're not responsible for what they did.
It's true.
It is true, but this is a trick. When you ask Sonny about like reparations and who is responsible, it's white people. So she comes across saying that someone like me, even if I didn't have ancestors that owned slaves, I am responsible for reparations.
You're part of the problem.
Yeah. So that's the thing. Like, for some reason, these two girls are saying that she's not at all responsible, which I would agree. She's not. We are in a whole different age from when slavery even took place.
We're actually like at a different age where so much has happened to really promote like women and minorities, and what we were just talking about, just about being trans, and there's so much to be thankful for, and with the laws that they have passed and the things that we are so far from where we were in the 1800s.
Yep.
With technology, with the way people live. And I honestly, I understand, like, our civilization in America was built off of, some crazy shit. Just look what we've done in the past, settling America. But that's what Spain did to Puerto Rico too. So I don't, if she has Spanish heritage that, they went to Puerto Rico, she was part of that.
And the thing is, like, when we talk about slavery in general, we often forget, or, it gets conveniently forgotten that Africans sold their own people.
They did.
And even if it was for like luxury goods or weapons, the reality is you still did it. So you can't really justify it on one end and not the other.
It wasn't just, like, the slave trade that we speak of all the time is about the Africans and the African Americans, but there was an entire like group of poor Europeans too that were indentured servants that nobody likes to talk about, because they were trying to escape like a bad time, but they ended up, coming here, all cramming into like a tiny, especially in the cities, cramming into a house, being forced to work in like meat packing places, with no time off, with again, this is not saying one is better than the other. It's saying that we always are focusing on one bad thing. We have grown past all of these bad things. We really, hopefully, have learned from our history. And I hope people don't forget the bad things that happen, because it'll make us recognize when something bad happens or is happening again. Is that 100% positive? I don't know. But for me, this is where when we talk about reparations, right?
Mm.
How do you do that? Do you have, like, is it just because you identify as Black? Like, could Rachel Dolezal, could she be,
I think
getting
initially their
reparations because
idea was to
like you can,
anybody that had like an ancestor that was a slave. I think that was their initial idea.
like, but
Now,
how would you prove it? Are they going to pay
right,
for all this genealogy? Are
right.
you, just because you say that you had a slave, like
And that's not even to say that that's Sonny's position. Sonny
mhm,
might be just like any Black
anybody
person,
who
you
says
know.
that they're, they had slavery in their history? Because honestly, like, I know my genealogy pretty well, just because my great grandmother was the first, like, generation born in America on both sides of my biological father and my mother's side. So that's pretty crazy, right? Like, because they came early 1900s. So am I allowed to not feel guilty about slavery because my ancestors were physically not even in the United States, so it was physical impossibility? Like, you're gonna is that what we're gonna get to? We're gonna get down to the nitty gritty and do all of the genealogy, and then what about you? You're adopted. So are we
But
gonna?
my name, like I've told you this story. I've met a woman with the same last name. In fact, we've gone through this a number of times. My last name is attached to a lot of Black Americans. And I ran into a woman that had my last name. She was Black, very lovely person.
I've never seen another
Sh-
white corporate
We
besides
we
us.
were both like when I remember delivering, because I was working for corporate at the time,
Hmm.
and so like I delivered some supplies, and I said, "Hey, yeah, did you know that you and I share the same last name?" She's like, "No way." I said, "Yeah." So she's like wanting to prove it by showing her my driver's license, which I did, and she was like blown away. But she wasn't hateful. Like Sonny comes across as hateful to white people. Like, so it's kind of sad that somebody who I can figure just through my name, even though I was adopted, but even through my name meant that they were probably slave owners at one point.
They
That's probably
were.
where they crossed over.
I've done your ancestry tree too. It goes back to like the 1600s, the Corpus in Virginia.
But if this woman doesn't
Oh, we're
have
putting our
any
names out there. Whew.
bitterness about it, then I can sit there and say that she's a good person. Like, because I have no bitterness to her. Like, I can't control what was done in the past. I can't. It is what it is. But technically, by name, they would try to hold me responsible through reparations, and like
But
I wouldn't
again,
do it.
he's adopted, so he's biologically not. So, and me, my family physically didn't come here, and they're part of like the poor Europeans who were kind of escaping, in the early 1900s. What's the answer? I mean, really, like, do you have to apply?
Reparations isn't the answer, because one of the things is it was also white people that ended slavery. Like, you can hold them accountable for some of it, like holding slaves, but there's also the people that set them free. And there were Black and white men that died trying to end slavery.
I mean,
So,
but like,
and I doubt, even though it was a tough time, I know it was a way tougher time than they're dealing with now. Like you listen to like, not trying to drag all the Kaepernick shit back in here, but when he starts comparing being in the NFL's beat to slavery, that's a problem. Like, that's
that's
such a
yeah,
disingenuous
because
approach.
he was given like this really awesome
He was raised by
opportunity,
white people
and
too.
yeah, I honestly, like, I sit and I think, how do you make the atrocities of the past for any, like, just like with the Germans, the Nazis, how do you say you're sorry to the, millions of people that they killed?
Well,
Like,
I mean,
how do you make that right?
and Whoopi some months back had a comment that got her in hot water, because she said, "Well, World War II was all about the white people problem. Like she could throw in Jews in with the white people. I'm like, no, it was about race. Trust me, there was race going on.
It was about the
So that got her in a lot of hot
purification.
water. Yeah,
Like it was like so. And I'll be honest, like even after in antebellum South, even all through the 60s and 70s, it's been rough for Black people, African Americans, even people who are people of color who weren't just came to the United States. Like they've experienced the racism, and it's like, where would you draw the line? Do those people get a shot at reparations because they're receiving the racism, but even though they didn't have ancestry that was here? I just there's no way to say you're sorry. There's not enough that you can do to like fix it
well,
with money.
but I don't think it's up to anybody now to say sorry. It's like it's not our fault. We weren't there.
Oh, I know that, but there's literally, I don't think you cannot erase history. You can't be
To
like
be truthful,
you
like
can't be like do over and get the Tesseract and
Yeah.
go to another dimension and be like, okay,
Multiverse.
guys, we're gonna be nice to the Native Americans when we get here, and we're gonna coexist instead of kicking them off their own land, giving them smallpox and forcing them into the wild west to fight with enemy Native American tribes that they had no idea even existed, because they have always been on the eastern side of the US.
I mean, you brought something to my attention some time ago that I didn't even know about, was the Japanese during World War II. What
We
they
did
did
that
to the Philippines.
well, we'll see what we did to Japanese Americans.
Yeah.
We put them in camps.
Yeah.
The Japanese
Somehow they're
decimated
not
the
crying
Philippines.
about everything. Like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah, I've noticed that like Japanese people are quite kind of like stoic, and but I also like, yes, in World War II we focus on like what Japan did to us and what we did, like, and everybody's like, oh, we dropped the bomb and blah blah blah, and we focus on like,
But we don't know about the crimes that Japan did to the Philippines and the Chinese
they
people.
were like decimating
Yep.
Asia and Southeast Asia in particular, and the Philippines is still like out of every kind of like place I've never really gotten time in the Philippines, but just like the things that you see, they have a very corrupt government. There are people there. This is why there's so many Catholic charities in the Philippines, by the way. The Spanish were there for a while, so they have a Spanish heritage, and they're also Southeast Asian, and they have really like weird laws about divorce and abortion, and that's why they all leave. Like the only way that they can make money, and it is a very impoverished country to the point where they just take shit like crates and build like huts out of them. Now, if you are like, a lot of them are working out of the country, working on ships, they'll go to Hong Kong and be like maids, nannies, work in the service industry and stuff, and they send the money home, and those people are living a good life because it doesn't take a lot of money to buy a mansion in the Philippines, the just because it's such an impoverished country. So it's very interesting to see, like, back in during World War II, they were way behind anyway. And the Philippines was not getting a lot of help. And I can't remember if it was the 70s or the 80s, but there were still Japanese soldiers who refused. They found him in the jungle in the Philippines. He refused to surrender, that they did not believe, because they did not hear the orders themselves.
Yeah, because communication was a lot different back then.
So it's just interesting. Again, yes, slavery sucked, but how many atrocities did I just like list that many people in the world have done? Look at what's going on right now in Ukraine. Like,
well, the thing is, at the end of the day, with this particular thing with Sunny, is that she was holding white people accountable for these past atrocities, and now through your own heritage, you find out that you were part of that process and part of that system. So you can't come back and double down and say, yeah, you still owe me reparations because I am Black, when you have that history, because everyone else has that same history too.
And
so.
and look how successful she is.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like thinking that we can't move forward at
Well,
this
that's the
point.
problem. That's why I like people like Morgan Freeman, who will come out and say, the less we talk about race, the better we can move on from it. Like, there are problems with racism. It still does exist on
It
some level,
does.
but it's also
But nowadays, I feel
racism
like
against anybody. There are black people are racist against white people. And, you can't control that, but it's always going to have these pockets. But I don't think it's a majority of America because, in my opinion, if a majority of America was racist, Obama would have never even gotten to be president. It would just
right?
never happen. It would never happen. So he didn't just do it once, he did it twice. So
And he
I
had
don't
some
believe this.
very, very like strong opponents.
Right,
So
right.
let's just be honest.
Yeah. So I don't buy into this theory that like Sonny thinks racism is the biggest problem in America. It's not. That's a false narrative.
God, I mean, we could do that. Could be another one we write down. What do you think is the biggest problem in America? I
I have my theories.
I say the 24-hour news cycle, social media at a young age, education,
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack with that. But
taxes.
this next topic is gonna
Okay,
get
so you
deep.
got so we're gonna put a little disclaimer. We're gonna be talking about some things that we're gonna just say like
very sensitive.
Yeah, sensitive things.
And these are our opinions only.
And also, we're just going to be giving you like the facts that we have found, like that people have uncovered, and it involves underage
pornography.
So we're not going to say that because we don't want like this to get taken down. We want people to really see this because
we call it CP.
We'll call it CP or cheese pizza, or because it's a big problem. Like, it's still that's one of the bigger problems in child slavery and into the CP industry. We are forgetting that even though now the internet is way more regulated than it has been, it used to be first it was just dedicated lines for business where it would be like, because it's been around for a while, like people have been able to connect business wise with email and stuff, and I think it was back in the 70s. So yes, and then it moved to the wild west in the 90s, and it was crazy. There was no regulation, and now there's still a way on the underground, in the dark web, even out in the open.
This is the thing, like to set this up, we have to kind of
you have to give a little bit of a backstory.
We have to rewind because back in around Christmas, Neko and I were going to visit her sister, and so we were kind of listening to some streamers that we really hadn't really known much about, and one of them was Keffels, and she had this like feud with this like conservative guy streamer. She's a trans leftist streamer, and it included someone that we do like a lot, Shoeonhead. We do enjoy her content a lot. And we heard this guy's name Vaush come up occasionally, but we didn't know very much about him. But I knew of him.
And it's like YouTube. I think we find more entertainment in YouTube now than on TV.
Yeah.
These streamers, especially some of these larger streamers, they have the ability to have a life by streaming. Like, they have enough people who are interested. You can watch.
Well, it's not just that. Like, as we're going to find out, like
And
even their followers are like they have the power to influence people.
That's the thing.
And they draw people who are generally like-minded.
It's like when you have a live stream, and we stream, but we don't like do it live. Like, we stream and put it up. We don't do like a lot of editing, or we just record, and it's all, but these streamers a lot of times stream and interact with their followers to the point where he's like typing, they're playing games, and it's a huge impact. Like, it will. Anyway, you give the backstory about this dude. Sorry.
Yeah, so this guy named Vaush, he's basically a socialist. He kind of calls himself a libertarian, but we're libertarians, and I really don't want to share.
I don't want to share that title with this dude.
Exactly. So, and I really doubt that he's actually a libertarian. I think he's really a far leftist, just judging by what he says. But here's the thing. he had ties to guys like Destiny and Hassan, who are very big streamers on the left, and had fallen outs with them for various reasons. And really, the videos I'm going to show you kind of cover some of this, but I'm going to do it first because I want to set this up in the best way I can. So Vaush has a very troubled history, and one of them is at one point he started streaming about 2019, and he started getting a pretty good following with his views. He apparently did better research when he was doing topics then as he does now. He doesn't do that much now, which I can definitely see. And he has this habit of watching some. So for like Asmongold the other day was commenting about the AI localizer thing, and so Vaush was looking over the video, but then stopped. He didn't even watch the whole thing. He watched like a few seconds, stopped and said, "Up, Asmongold's a Nazi." Just said it. Didn't have proof. Didn't watch the video. He says he listens to his followers, which they could be telling him the moon exploded, and he'd probably believe them. So he doesn't do any research. He doesn't actually watch the videos that he's trying to comment on. So it really makes him look lazy and just kind of like an idiot. But he was apparently chatting at one point with this other streamer named Poppy. And
And what Poppy got to say?
well, he apparently started like they had a friendly relationship. They were talking, but then he'd start pushing into the sexual stuff with this chick. So I'm pretty sure she's of age. This is not like part of the other problem with him, but what happened was he was basically sexually stalking this woman, and so like it became a real problem. Now,
Well, sexual harassment's a real problem too, not just
Right.
underage.
Now keep in mind, this guy Vaush is a self-proclaimed feminist, and we saw the Authentic Observer, like where he was responding to a video of hers, and he was basically calling her slut shaming her, calling her bitch. I
He's
mean,
like,
and
look
she's
at
a
her. Who
feminist,
does
so
she think she is wearing those pantyhose?
right.
She just wants to get fucked.
So
And I'm
these
like,
aren't really the behaviors I think that a feminist should have. Now, I'm not a feminist. I do believe in women's rights. Obviously, I just don't throw that label on myself. Some people might say I'm a feminist anyway, but I don't like the label because I think there's too many problems within the feminism community to really put myself under that
it's kind of
umbrella.
like what we said before about Black Lives Matter,
Right.
because we believe Black Lives Matter, but the organization Black Lives Matter
There's a lot of potholes.
is a problem with them, and then any real organization that wants to use the phrase Black Lives Matter gets associated with the shitty organization, and now the shitty organization now is trying to copyright Black Lives Matter, by the way. So how stupid. But anyway, that's kind of like what's happening. It's like
so
you don't want
Vaush-
us to be feminists, but
Yeah.
we appreciate and love women. So
Yeah, his behavior with everything right now doesn't really coincide with that. So he has that in his background. And apparently it wasn't just her, but maybe somebody else. I heard there was like 2 women involved, but I don't know the other story and the other woman.
what
But
is with these streamers? I feel like sometimes they get these egos, because remember the friend of Asmond who
yeah, the co-founder.
yeah, they get like these egos, and they think that they can do whatever they want, because look at me, I've got like 2 billion subscribers, and I have all these people sign on every day just to watch me, and blah blah blah. So they get like a god complex,
Yep.
thinking that they can do no wrong.
Yeah.
And so they just start being bullies, or in his case, thinking he can just sexually assault women or get weird with women in such a way that makes them uncomfortable.
But now Vaush also has some other things in his past. It dates back 3 years, where he makes statements about the videos will cover this, obviously, so you'll get to hear it firsthand. But he makes statements where he thinks that he doesn't feel that legally CP should be illegal on someone's computer. Like he does not believe that should be a thing. Now you can argue, and some people have tried this, that it's out of context or that he was joking, but he seems to do this a lot. And he always comes back, and he kind of comes back and he actually verifies it. Yeah, I feel this way. So people, when they say it's out of context, like you're kind of lying, because he's telling us it's not a lie.
He feels like it's okay to watch it, but he's
Yes.
against making
Right.
it. So
But
if
there
you
was
get
one,
caught with it on your computer, you shouldn't be in
which is
trouble.
illegal. It's
It's
illegal.
illegal.
It's a crime.
But let's flip it around. How did you get that? Some child had to be abused in order for you to get enjoyment.
And that's the key thing there. So there's this
Mhm.
guy named Ethan for the H Street podcast. He's at kind of the center of this because he really kind of blew the doors open with this, where he said the same thing. He's like, even if you think Ethan has a point with this, that stuff had to come from somewhere. And what that does, it still affects children. And so you can't just rub it off like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, even so in other countries the laws are a lot looser, like what underage is considered. So even if you're telling me that you got this from a place where they feel that a 13-year-old is considered consenting because 12 and over is considered adult, it's, to me, here it is not consensual. So still having a 13-year-old video, that person, yes, while what they did in that country is not illegal in that country,
Keep in mind, and again, this will be all covered, this is the same guy who thinks the age of consent should be lowered.
They've
And
been
he
raising
stood by that comment.
So they've been raising like
If anything, he should be raised.
So for me to hear that, here in Maryland, they've been doing a lot of really interesting things with the laws where they're raising like the age of what you kind of call responsibility. So it always used to be if you're 18 or older, you're being tried as an adult, but they've been raising it. And they've, at some point, they're like, the human brain is not fully formed until you're 26 years old. So, depending on the severity of the crime, and I'm like, so 26 and over, you go to jail like an adult? Or it's interesting to hear him say, oh, we need to lower the consent, where more and more people are finding out. Now, granted,
It's not just that he thinks that it's possible for an adult to have a romantic relationship with a child. Like, he said this.
That sounds like a groomer to me.
Yes. So like, he doubles down on this stuff. It's not like he's just saying, "Oh, I was kidding," or wasn't serious." He doubles down and believes this shit, and he says it.
Sometimes I wonder if they say these salacious things because it just gets the views.
But this isn't. Yeah, well, you would think that, but when he doubles down on it, then you're like, "Oh shit!" And then we haven't even got to the weird part. This guy has a fetish, and his fetish is he fantasizes about dressing as a horse and having sex with young girls. Now, he doesn't state the age, but he made a comment a couple of years ago when he was doing a stream with some other dude, and they were talking about this topic, and he said, there's something out there called lolicon, and it's basically very young anime girls that look like children that,
it's like sexy.
It's like CP. It's its own cartoon version of CP. And Vaush is on record stating that if you are into that, then there is a correlation between that and being a pedo. That's his words.
So lolicon equals pedo?
If you are into that, so that kind of leads like the gateway to that kind of stuff, right?
Okay, so maybe he started with that and now he wants to fuck girls dressed like a horse. I don't know.
But the thing is, like, the thing that blew all this open was he was doing a stream just talking about men's attire. And he hit the wrong folder, and a piece of art came up that had a horse cock next to a young girl, which was lolicon.
Oh, lolicon?
Yes. And so here's the same guy telling you that this is the kind of stuff that pedos would do.
Yeah.
And so
then
he's like, whoa.
He likes to say the P word a lot to all these people. He always likes to call people the P word.
If you're conservative, or, like Asmongold, like, he didn't call Asmon a pedo, but he called him a Nazi. And he calls anybody anything. But then here we are. There's different streamers out there that are actually giving him that label. And some of the people defending him are freaking out. Like, that's not fair. But your actions are speaking louder than words. I mean, I got his theme song right here.
Hit my horse is amazing. Give it a lick.
It tastes just like raisins.
Have a stroke of its mane, it turns into a plane, and then it turns back again when you tug on its winky.
So
It's been a
there you
while.
have- Yeah, been a while. This is like the perfect opportunity to use that. So I like that, you
Oh
know.
my god. It's been at least what 15 years since we started talking
well,
about that
every
song.
once in a while we come across it. We'll come back and we'll reminisce about old videos that we came across, you know, when we were younger and whatnot. But
And we're talking about when I met him, I was an age of consent. I was 21 when I met him. So when we say younger, we're not talking about
yeah, we're not talking teens or
lolicon.
anything. Yeah, nothing crazy.
I
So,
know everybody knows he's older than me.
but here is the first video. I've
Okay.
got two videos, one from Kristen Ark and the second one from Amiga, and both of them are great. So I only took clips from each one because
Yeah, we
like these
don't-
guys did like
yeah.
2 to 3 hour
And
streams.
you can find it if you want to watch their
well, I'm
full
gonna
opinion.
put their
Okay.
links in the description when I'm done with this. But the first one is from Kristen Narg. It's only about 3 minutes, but he kind of gives like a quick rundown of what's going on.
And first off, like I don't know how we get into these crazy. Like last year, it was Elijah Blue around this time of year.
Yeah.
This year, it's the Vaush thing. It's like I maybe guess like we didn't have this shit growing up. We had like the Jerry Springer show, so
Might as well be that.
yeah, we like train wrecks. I think so. I don't know how you find like one little thread. You're listening to a streamer that you like, or you're watching a streamer that you like, and someone like this gets name dropped, and then you just follow and go further and further down
The rabbit hole.
and you start finding out all kinds of crazy shit.
And that's the thing. Like, you know, look, I don't know if Vaush is doing these like worse things.
Yeah, if it's illegal or not or anything like it.
But these are certainly red flags. And I would think that any intelligent person like FBI or whatever will at least want to investigate this.
I
Like,
mean, we've known people who have gotten in trouble for sketchy things.
oh yes, I know someone very personally.
Yes, you do. Two
Yes.
people very personally.
And I no longer associate with them. This is why we'll be talking about Keffelson Tipster later, because some people are just coming to his defense. And like, unfortunately, when the guy's admitting to a lot of this shit, there's nothing to defend. Like, it really isn't.
Oh God, 3 people.
Yeah. So
I'm like starting to count them up. That it hurts because the memories were great, but like you didn't know.
nope. And that's just how scary it can be. So here's the first one by Kristen Nark. We'll check it out here.
You were picking on a guy weaker than you, weren't you, Jim?
I might say it's because you're a loser who's playing to an audience of children.
I'd like to join your posse, boys, but first I'm gonna sing a little song.
I love the cartoon. Look at the cat in the background. Like he's got a little cat with a bed.
Let's see if I can
That'd be
do it.
great. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. But
I thought I
yeah,
edited
get the
this
hell
out,
out.
but I definitely didn't.
You're not
I like
welcome.
it, though.
You're not welcome in my chat. You're not
Oh,
welcome. in my
he's very
community. I'm
entertaining.
weeding out the weak. I'm
He's
weeding out the
tell
weak. Thank you,
fans
Doug,
to
for
hold
the
their
membership for
horses.
16 months. I saw you before. Critical Shogun, thank you for the 5 and for the membership re-up. Appreciate you.
Oh, you should see what Ethan and H3
This
did.
is an
They
Israel W.
torched them.
Look at the V for Vendetta.
This is
Yeah.
a
I've
very
never.
heavy,
I'm
heavy
gonna admit,
Israel
I've never
W,
seen his
as they say.
his stream ever. So like to see this, I think he's very clever. I wish I could do these cool animations and stuff.
Like
Like
they're already using the Vaush terms. Like, no, Chris, you're a Nazi. That's what all Nazis are.
so okay, so what are these pictures in the background? It says guilty, guilty. Like who are those dudes?
I don't know. Let me. I do have some sort of 14-minute mark. I do want to get to this.
I'm sorry. Oh, there he is.
Yeah, he did a very good job. Oops. All right, so here we go. Sorry, guys. I thought I had clipped this, but I
Yeah,
didn't.
but I'm glad you didn't because I've never watched him before.
Dude, yeah. I mean, I like I told you the other day. I said, you know, you should literally, because you enjoy a lot of this kind of stuff, go down that rabbit hole. It's fucking very.
More to say outside of that. So
I
want
don't
you guys to
time.
listen to what Vaush has to say.
I get the notes from you.
And then after we nut, we go back, look over our history chat, and we go like, oh, geez. Oh, boy. Some of these girls looked pretty young. Okay? I don't give a fuck. All right? That don't care.
Great
That's
start to
Vaush.
the Vaush stream. Great start to the Vaush stream. Oh, I just got another privacy complaint. What's the other one for? Let's see here. Yep, I'm getting all my mom.
Just for people, the guy in the bottom here who's just drinking this thing, it's like a clip, GIF clip. That's Tipster. He's gonna end up coming up later. So just be prepared.
Max videos are getting flagged right now.
His-
Live on air.
his-
That's great. I
He's
love
getting
that.
flagged
Oh, well,
for
that's
what?
life.
He's
Thank
using
God I
some
know
of the
someone that
content
knows how to
and they're just
overturn
flagging
these
it there.
things. You kind of barking
Okay.
up the wrong tree here, dude. You're flagging me is not a good idea.
It's probably someone that is a fan of Vaush and doesn't
But
want
listen,
him using.
we're already starting off pretty strong with Vaush saying that he doesn't care that they looked young and apparently in a conversation. So gets kind of mad. Now he would say that's a joke, which I'd be inclined to believe. One time, maybe a joke. But as you could tell
But
here,
I mean,
it was
pause
about
this real fast.
about a
Like,
minute.
I get one comment of, oh yeah, they look pretty young. Who cares? I still think I'm holding up pretty good, and I'm a middle-aged woman. And when we first met, how many people? Because I'm short too. I'm very short. And how many people thought I was underage? And we go out and get a drink, and they're like, "I'm sorry, little miss, you
No,
can't
it's
have."
not near as fun as when I took you to the Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, they wanted
I
to
was like,
card me.
wait, well, you're not carding her? And they're like, well, you're of age. So she's
So
like, thanks, Dad.
Yeah, they're like, minors don't need as long as they're accompanied by an adult. And I'm like, thanks, Dad. And he's like, stop it.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, that's not funny. Like, people will look at me the wrong way.
And I was trying to hold his hand, and he's like, stop.
Yeah.
Ew.
Ew.
So like, a joke like that is a lot different than
Yes.
I like to look at little girls
And I don't care. Yeah, I say, come on, dude. And then like the other thing, Ethan was laughing about it because I was with Ethan when I was watching it. He's like, when he makes that comment, he's like, no, Vaush, nobody has a history of that. Sorry, that's not a normal thing. Like, you know what I mean?
30 of Vaush making sussy comments. So I don't really.
Sussy. I'm too old.
I still think that
I suspect like
should be 100% legal.
Is that what that means?
In
sussy?
fact, and this is going to be a real hot take.
He's
I have yet
younger
to hear
than
a
me. I
convincing
have to ask
moral
him
or
about
legal
like
argument as to
slang.
why possession of child pornography should be illegal.
Oh, what?
This is
What,
the kind of person
sir?
that we're dealing with here.
Oh, you want to go back?
Yeah, he said.
He's
I'm
like,
gonna
yeah,
be quiet.
zoophile porn should be allowed. The guy who likes horse cocks with anime girls. But then he goes into a segue where it's nobody's ever given me a good moral argument as to why CP shouldn't be allowed. Oh, Vaush, I get it.
I
I
can
get
give
it.
you about
like to
100
debate
reasons
really
because-
shitty topics. I get it. You like to debate. I
Pause
get
it real fast. I don't
get
want to talk
I
over
get
him. I can give you 1,000 reasons why it moral reasons. I mean, first of all, they don't have a choice. They're children, so they have no say in what they're doing. Second, it is under the age of consent. Third, think about like if you had a kid, or think about if you were a little kid, and maybe this is what happened to him when he was little, and maybe he's like coming out.
Well,
like maybe he was
here's
abused.
something else. He is apparently has some form of autism.
Okay.
But
I know lots of people with some
I've
type
never
of
met
autism.
anyone with autism that is into CP at all.
No, most of my autistic people now there are ranges, there's the
Sure,
spectrum.
sure.
But most of the autistic people I have encountered are more towards like the creative side. And I think a lot of their parents, there was some of the kids that I would teach dance. Like I think their parents put them in something creative to give them an outlet, and that's why people always make the jokes or theater or whatever. Like I've worked with a lot of people with autism. They're like, oh, like the blue hair autistic chick. Well, that's because they're theater kids. Like they're expressing them. You know what I mean? Like I've never worked with an autistic person who was in favor of CP or who was obnoxious. And
Yeah.
I think honestly,
I mean, if he has it, it's like a very minor form of it, I think.
there are autistic people that are attorneys. They make fabulous attorneys because you have to be able to. A lot of autistic people.
But you're right. A lot of them that I come across, that you have these egos and they think their shit don't stink, and it's just part of their.
No, I'm
thing.
saying streamers. These big streamers that think their shit don't
Well,
stink.
that
I'm not
too.
saying that about autistic people. I think his problem is he's getting too big for his britches. I don't like to say, oh, he has some kind of autism. Don't give him an excuse like that most because then you're lumping it in, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
all autistic. No, don't give him
Well,
some kind
keep
of
that in mind
yeah.
too.
Okay,
That's something
okay, sorry,
else
sorry. Okay.
coming.
Play it again. Let me listen. Okay, where's the T?
But nobody should be saying that nobody's giving you a good defense as to why CP shouldn't be legal. It should never be legal in its entirety. That should actually be put on a chopping block. If people even like discuss the idea of CP being legal, they should be put on an FBI watch list. Like, I don't know what more to say about that. How did he even get popular? I don't know. I would assume it's through like the Destiny orbit and him doing like debate shit, but then rested on his laurels and started just doing React content in general, or like doing drama-based content. So from what I understand, because I was watching a little bit of Chud, because Chud knows the history of Vaush like way more.
I'm feeling the same thing that he's saying. Like he got he got a little bit of popularity and rose by like the gamers and stuff, right? And then he started just getting a little extreme so that he would get popular.
Yeah, no, I mean, people have said that back in the day when he would argue politics, he did a very good job. It's because he did the research. He went in, he looked in there, found the information. But immediately when I saw him reacting to Asmongold, I'm like, dude, you're not even listening to what Asmon is saying regarding this topic. Like, and it's not even that long of a video, but he was like skipping it. He just heard like Asmon say, "This is not cool," and he's like, "Nah, I know Asmon. He's like Nazi, you know." And I'm like, that's a terrible way to do.
I hate that
anything.
because I actually enjoy listening to Asmon, and we watch his stuff. A lot of times he's just really funny. I was watching something that you probably never even watched, that Stanley game that
I watched it with you. I was with you.
But you weren't watching it before because you found Asmon just because of World of
Wow.
Warcraft
Right.
and Halo, not Halo, Diablo or
Well, it
whatever.
was actually the Depp Heard thing where I kind of, because he was talking a lot about that. Like I was researching that at the time.
So for me, like every time I listen to Asmon, even if it's him just having a good time because he was playing this game, and it's a really weird game, and now I want to play it. But he's intelligent and witty, and he kind of has a really good time. So when we were watching Asmon speak on Vaush and speak on other people, he does do a react to what Vaush is saying about him, and he's like, "No, pause.
Yeah,
I have
he
to
threw up
say."
his little smiley face because he doesn't let that shit get to him. Like he doesn't really care. But he understands who Vaush is too. Like I don't know what his feelings are on this stuff. I don't know if Asmon's even aware of all this, but either way,
We'll have to
this
go
is
down
just a very big
the
black
rabbit hole
mark,
again.
and just gets worse for this guy.
Okay, go ahead.
Vaush became big because of the Destiny orbits, debating, becoming friends with Destiny. They had a falling out. And then apparently Vaush just has gotten so lazy with his content, he doesn't prepare for anything, and it's just slop. It's just content slop. And all of this shit just comes and haunts him now.
Assuming child porn be legal, I think that would be, yes, more legal and more ethically consistent. Yeah.
Now,
I don't know how
let me give you the reason why he's saying this.
Ethically consistent.
So what he does, at least when he did this, I don't know what argument, how they got into this, but he said, this is where he starts talking about like, well, if you're not mad about the child slavery across the globe that gives you chocolate or phones or this and that, then you don't have the right to be mad or uptight about CP.
It's all bad. How about we just...
That's what I'm saying. Like he never provided any context of people saying that child slavery is good. So he kind of comes out, I guess he's just trying to mock people for like, if we don't really pay as much attention to that as we do CP. But see, the thing is, there is actually a worse thing. There is slavery that's bad, but CP is far worse and far more damaging. And one thing Ethan pointed out is like with child slavery, you can rectify that because we know that doesn't happen all places across the globe. So not everything that's being made for Americans is done through child slavery, but you can actually fix that to where it would be a fixable thing. Now, CP, you can't. There's no writing that in any way that makes it work.
Yeah, I mean, if
You know what I mean?
If
Like
you
you
are-
can't just say, "Oh yeah, well if you do this, it would still be okay." No, there's no okay with CP.
Yeah, I feel like, there's these other countries that they have like looser work laws just for everyone in general. And we forget that not that long ago, children, 8 years old were working at the factories here in America. And, there has been a bigger push for more ethical standards when you're when you're buying things overseas.
Yeah, it's all bad.
I mean, it's all bad, but like
But
you can
I always thought it was
you
like
can really try hard and you can be successful with keeping yourself like being conscious of where you purchase things.
yeah, but I
You
just think
can.
but it was like the minute he did that, I just thought it was like a whataboutism. It's like someone's pointing that CP is bad and then you're gonna go into child slavery. I'm like, dude, why change the topic? Like let's stay on
Because it's
point.
it's the spin zone. Like
Yeah.
he's trying to deflect.
And that's why it looks so bad, because everything that comes out about him regarding the things he says makes it look worse.
And it's exactly what everyone says. There is no way. You just said it. Chris in the Ark. What's his name?
Chris the Narc.
Chris the Narc. Chris the Narc. Like the Narc. He's narking people out.
KNARC. Yep.
He's narking people out.
Yeah.
So it's never okay for child pornography. It's never okay for anybody to be forced to do something sexual that is not with their consent, especially a child. I mean, I don't know if you remember the big deal with women in the Eastern Bloc where they were being forced to be webcam girls because they had like pimps and stuff. That's none of this is okay.
Right.
You can't start like
That's my point. It's like
grading
when he makes those
things.
comments and makes those comparisons, like he's not even providing evidence of people saying that child slavery is good. Like you're just assuming that people are ignoring it, but they're not. It's all bad. It's just that CP is far worse.
And
In a
CP,
hypothetical,
you
could
have
say
to
that.
actually like
That it's
hide it.
morally ethical and more consistent. I don't get it. I don't get that. I don't get that. Even if you're doing like a debate of being like, oh, this is worse than one thing, bro, that shouldn't even be in an argumentative conversation. I'm gonna be honest. You debating the ethics of CP, even in a hypothetical, to me, is not a good look. It actually makes you look fucking disgusting. But that's just me. That's just me.
I agree.
I don't know
agree.
about the rest of you. I don't know how
Not
many of
just
you
you.
are debate
I'm right
nerds,
there with you.
but I find this shit gross, personally.
That's 100%.
It is possible for an adult and a child to have a sexual relationship and for it to have positive outcomes.
He was abused when he was a kid. I'm telling
It's
you.
the only thing I can think of. Like, dude, this dude, like something happened in his parenting that was not good.
But see, let's expand on that. You did not have a fantastic
Well,
childhood.
I was never.
No, he was never molested or abused like that. But you and
There's
again,
more mental and physical abuse.
but I think you have dealt with things a lot better than most people would deal with what you've had to deal with. I truly do.
Yeah, but I don't want to compare myself to other people because people's situations are different.
I know. So I think perhaps he has been kind of like sheltering himself, Vaush has, and then he gets this platform and becomes big, and he has never dealt with what was happening to him. If this is a hypothetical, because I don't know his personal life, but if something like that really did happen to him, he's kind of on the spectrum, if we're going to even put that there, but maybe he is a loner, and maybe he's made all of his friends just through his streaming. He's never dealt with anything, and he thinks it's just normal to say these things, and he's got a big ego now.
Yeah, because when he was doing that shit with Poppy, he kept bringing up like, "Hey, I can send you a pic of my dong if you want." And she's like, "No, I don't want that."
No, thank you.
those
Please stop
are
sexually
just,
harassing
like I
me.
said, like if you're FBI or like, the feds, like
It's a fizz.
You're looking at these are like red flags. These are things that normally stings are done for. It's like
We know somebody who had that happen. I know
Couple
two.
people.
I know 3 people, 4 people who've had that.
So-
Jesus Christ, people are gross.
yeah. So like again, I don't know if he's doing diddling kids or not, but the reality is you're saying and your shit on your computer is showing that there's some issues there that might need to be looked into. Like that's the reality. And you can't be mad at everybody else that's commenting on this saying that, oh, you're taking it out of no, dude, you're doubling down on this stuff.
We are
These are
literally
your
taking your
words.
words and
Right.
that you recorded and put
The
up on the
evidence is
internet.
there. It's right there.
You chat, if you haven't learned about Vaush before, are you starting to get an idea? Are you starting to get an idea of what kind of person we're dealing with here? Are you guys getting this? Are you understanding why I'm excited to talk about this guy and why I'm excited for Ethan just to rip him apart? Now, he would say that
I will say that anybody that's watching this or whatever, even Echo, like, watch the H3 podcast. I know there's a couple videos that are long, but they really go into it and they break it down and they just really dive into it. But there's a lot of them, like Amigan, Krista Nark, Chud Logic does a really good. He's had a lot of good discussion. He's like a British dude.
We're just gonna have to go down the rabbit hole again.
Yeah, it's
I
very
interesting.
I
haven't been able to keep up with the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it's a lot of shit, but it's a very interesting thing to talk about.
he was debating like the difference between like, I think it was like slave labor or something like that. I don't even remember. But like using that as a bridge connector to an overall conversation, maybe not the best idea. Maybe not the best idea.
Mm-hmm.
And you just sound insane being like, yeah, of course. If a grown
We know
adult
people pause
has a
this.
relationship
So we've known people who you would look on the outside and you're like, wow, you have a wife and kids. Two of them are older, like who got in trouble were like in their 60s. One was a very high ranking person in the military. And another was just a mutual friend who was caught going into another mutual friend's daughter's bedroom. And all of these people were caught because it started with things on their computer. And this dude is literally putting himself out there saying, I don't think it's wrong. I think I can have a consensual, loving relationship, a sexual relationship with a child.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, he hasn't really given, like, even if you're gonna go with that argument, you haven't presented any facts.
Yeah, like, what if he was
what positive thing would you be able to prove to anybody that an adult can have a sexual relation with a kid and it be positive? Like, show me where the data is.
Show me the research. Show me,
because you're fucking out of your mind. It damages a lot of kids. It is proof of that. All right, so yeah, so I'm gonna skip real quick to about the hour mark. I had something else. And you see Ethan here. This is the H3, so clearly this is some more shit that he's gonna get into.
I can't read the last paragraph. There's some weird shit that Vito posted.
Oh no.
I have not. Yeah, anyway, so this led people to compiling questionable clips from Vaush's past. Apparently, he has a colorful history of saying really bizarre, creepy.
Man, people
weird
have a lot of
shit.
time on their hands to go through all of his videos
Say is
and
always
clip things.
taken out of context. So let's do our best here.
A lot of editors.
Read off screen, you could have told me that there was something in there that shouldn't be shown.
They're big.
I'm not reading the rest of it. Fuck you.
Followers.
To
no, for people to go through and clip all of Vaush's stuff.
Now, here's a compilation. Okay, so if there's anything out of context here, let me know.
You're gonna get a lot of shit
by
now.
the YouTube
All right,
Police Department.
Should go to
That's
the police
I've never heard of them.
ACAB.
I don't have a Twitter account. Of course, you're
ACAB means YouTube Police.
How long have we been streaming in that I don't have to worry about this? An hour? All right, perfect. We're fine. Shit happens. Smaggle, I'm mad at you, but I don't hate you. I'm mad at you, but I don't hate you. Okay?
Oh my goodness.
Two, okay?
Wow, Cav's got really? You gonna call ACAB on them? That says a lot, 14-year-old Natalie Portman. So here's some of the greatest hits. Let's listen.
Assuming child porn be legal, I think that would be, yes, more legal and more ethically consistent. Yes, 100%. Listen very carefully to the exact language that I use. I have yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. The argument that I was making, and I've made this argument a bunch of times, and I've addressed this poorly made argument a bunch of times here. Why is the possession of child pornography immoral? People are...
Why is it immoral? Easy answer. It's children. You shouldn't be enjoying shit that involves children. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. At any
I mean,
point,
it doesn't
I don't
really
even
take
have
a-
that
defend
compulsion. Like for
anything
me,
involving
for
children.
me, like when I hug a child, it is just out of
Consistent in
love
their
and
moral
kindness.
outrage at commodities which hurt people when they're produced. So people will laugh off cocoa butter or chocolate or or cobalt or other products that we tend to get through a really unethical system. But then they're really quick to deny.
Well, we do.
You know, he has a point. Like, we should feel bad for all the chocolate bars that are hurting out there because we eat them. Like, that's really,
Yeah, but the children have to get the cocoa beans.
yeah.
Do you want me to go get the box of chocolate for Valentine's Day
That's a
that you
good
gave me?
idea,
All right,
actually.
I'll be right back.
I'm gonna remove her for a minute. And yeah, so again, I'm with Chris on this. I'm with anyone else who's been talking about this outside of the ones that have been defending him, which is ridiculous. But trying to use that comparison to CP is just, it's disingenuous, it's dishonest, and it's just fucking straight up weird. Like, you can't really defend that kind of like behavior. So I don't know. I don't really like that.
This is one of my Valentine's Day presents from DJ Anubis.
We do have a special place in our heart.
I do
for
have
child
popcorn too.
abuse.
This
Guys
is
like
like
all
all popcorn.
You
chicken
eat
right now.
chocolate. You eat
What?
chocolate, but you barely care about child pornography, and you eat chocolate.
That's literally the only defense that Vaush has. Is like, well, we get all these things that are like, we do horrible shit to people to like get chocolate and like basic necessities.
Chocolate with chocolate.
But apparently CP's too far, and it's crazy that
Look
you
at
would
mommy's, like,
defend
hoarding
getting
the
those
chocolate
items,
now.
but you won't defend that. Like, fuck off. Fuck off. I would
what was that?
rather
Yeah.
have a group of
Chocolate-covered
people
cherry.
slaving away for the rest of their lives so I can
That's
get
what
an
the circular
iPad
ones are, the
than have a
chocolate-covered
kid
cherries.
be exploited that way. If I had to
There it is.
choose, if there was a situation where I had to choose
I like to have a piece
in
of
the world,
chocolate
what would make
every
the
day.
world a better place?
Also
I would
got me
choose
a
the
Star
slave
Friend.
labor.
In
I would
honor of you,
choose the slave
Vaush,
labor.
chocolate.
You're gonna sit there and eat chocolate.
An insane take.
It
I
is
am
utterly,
eating chocolate
absolutely
right
bananas.
now.
And frankly, to put even if you have some like rational connection you made in your mind, it's not worth putting your neck out for that one, brother. Like, let's keep that one locked up in the
Right.
chamber. We don't need to give pedos any green lights.
I'm so confused
Right.
by people in chat. We have had so many people in chat like, you don't know the full context.
We'll watch it.
Oh, don't worry, we have the
We have
longer
it all.
clips.
Yeah, I know. But the funny part is that, sure, it's slightly different, but it's still so
Well, it's
bad.
funny because like in this part
Okay, we can
particularly,
probably round up some people today if you know what I'm saying.
right.
Well, honeypot.
here's
honeypot in our own chat.
It's funny because people go, "Oh, he's taken out of context," but listen what he says.
Consistent, yes, 100%. Listen very carefully to the exact language that I use.
Listen very carefully as I express myself articulately and clearly as I possibly can.
That's where Vaush like completely destroyed himself. in so many
Exactly.
different
He was like,
aspects.
I am saying this on purpose. Listen to me.
Right. So you can't say it's out of context because he just literally admitted. Listen to me. This is what I'm saying, and he just says it again.
I mean, I would never do anything. I wouldn't even speak on this subject in a loving manner or even in a like very stoic way as he is. Like I would never even think, like, to me it's a non-issue because I don't feel like it is okay
It's
at
not okay.
all.
None. There's no like. There's no
there's-
like gray area. It's
No.
bad.
I mean, maybe a gray area would be like an 18-year-old dating a 17-year-old, even though that's technically like in certain.
But they're both teenagers.
But they're
so,
both
like,
teenagers. But
you can fly with
18
that.
is technically in most
But if
places.
you're taking like a 40-year-old and the 18-year-old, like even though that girl might be legal by the age of consent, people still frown on that shit a lot.
But they're both of consent. I'm talking like a 40-year-old and a 14-year-old.
No, that's bad.
That's bad.
That's
There-
CP.
There is no way, no way, shape, or form that you can. I mean, he's talking children. He's talking adults having consensual, positive relationships with children. Children, to me, is someone who hasn't hit puberty yet. That's what I'm saying. Like, he keeps using the word children, and a consensual relationship cannot happen
He
with
wants
a
the age of
child.
consent lowered. He wants that.
A consensual relationship cannot happen with someone who does not have
He's like,
the
please listen to
authority
me
give
very
consent.
clearly. I'm going to tell you my exact opinion on this right now. That's how it's portrayed. So all these people saying, well, he's been cut out of context. You don't understand why he's having this argument. Dude, he still had that position as an argumentative position. That shows that he believes in it in some capacity, or at least the concept of debating it in that capacity. That's fucked to me. I'm not going to pick a side. The side that I am on
this really
is
fast because
all
I'm
people
not
that
I'm not
enjoy
giving him any kind of like I'm not agreeing with him or anything, but just imagine like what a defense lawyer for a person accused of CP has to go through, like the mental gymnastics and the hoops that they have to go through to present a defense against that case. Yet most of the time when these cases come up, they're not saying, yes, there is proof that an adult can have a consensual relationship and positive relationship with a child. Here's medical studies. Normally what they're doing is they're trying to get the person in less trouble with a less sentence by citing other people who have received punishment and saying, well, according to this case, like this is the severity of it, so we want to drop it down to a different charge so the person is only in prison for like whatever many years.
Well, and this is why
a lawyer doesn't even go through the shit that he's doing to try to defend somebody who, so why he even brings this shit up is beyond me.
No.
He's not a lawyer. He's
No.
a dude with a bad ponytail.
DP or pedophiles or anything, you line them up against the wall and you just unload a mag into them. There you go. That's it. There's no contest, no debate, nothing. All of these people need to be fucking excommunicated.
All right, pause. Can I have like a moment, like my squirrel moment? So remember how I've always told you like my arms are not straight? Like look at my picture now.
Yeah.
You can clearly see how it blows my mind. I'm sorry. Your arms are straight. Mine.
No, this one I broke arm over here.
I've never broken my arms, and both of them do like this weird little curvy thing. Sorry, I was just like sitting like
yeah,
this.
I don't know where we're going with
It
this.
was my squirrel moment. I'm sorry. That's my ADD moment. Thank you. And let's get back to Vaush.
I've yet to hear a convincing moral or legal argument as to why possession of child pornography should be illegal. The argument.
Wait, how? What does he mean by that? Like,
so
first of all,
it's insanely wrong.
making of it
is
or
a crime.
A
horrific crime. One of the worst, probably one of the worst crimes you can commit.
How does somebody get to the point of possessing?
And I'm not even a dad, dude, and I know this shit. I can't believe
exactly
that this is even an argument.
It's fucking logic, man.
Content.
Common sense.
It must be illegal.
The problem is, I think what he's saying is, if you have it, you're not hurting anyone. But what you are doing is you are
supply and demand.
Exactly. You're creating a demand for a product.
He talks about all of this.
Okay, let's watch it. Well, I'll wait then. I'll wait.
No, if you want to get into it, just go to. We have this full clip, like not in the compilation.
Let me watch the.
Why is Shitster at the bottom corner? Because he's very important to the story later. And me and Tipster are doing a dual reaction stream right now.
Compilation. I'm not going to pause it.
And you should go through
and then we'll move on.
Ones one by one, because a lot of what you're asking is
Okay. Okay. Good.
I was making, and I've made this argument a bunch of times, and I've addressed it.
Listen, Tipster's here for moral support, guys, for Vaush. He's not really saying much, though. It's kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, Tipster here. I got a real photo of him. What? Nope, that's not him. That's Ali Lopez. Sorry. Go back.
If you gift a membership, you can definitely hear Tipster's take on the Vaush situation.
This poorly made argument a bunch of times here. Why is the possession of child pornography?
But I did the
People
whoop
are
because that's what
inconsistent
Vaush did when he got
their
caught with the
moral
image
outrage
online.
at commodities which hurt people when they're produced. So,
Bro, you should not be considering CP a commodity. There you go. Easy. Boom. I just destroyed Vaush's argument. That is not a commodity. I do not care what you have to say after that. No, zero. There's no other argumentation. There's no way you can worm your way out of this. It's not that. It's fucking a crime. It's literally the worst thing that you could do to another human.
I'm gonna pause that. We might come back later to that one, but we're gonna move over to Megan. His is about 20 minutes, and I do want to watch that one. So he has a really good breakdown of a lot of this too. So.
This is an example of the kind of structure that I'm referring to.
And this is when he gets caught with the image. This is the moment he got caught. He's got a cool intro.
He does.
Cthulhu and shit.
It's just fantastic.
Vaush, a YouTuber who I'd known for a long time as one of the breadtuber crowd, has recently got himself into a bit of hot water for what you saw right at the start there, a censored folder on his desktop of content that has divided the internet. And I say divided the internet because some people are defending Vaush for having these images, others are saying no, you should be arrested. Vaush as a YouTuber is a very polarizing character. I make it a point not to get too involved with people like Vaush because I know there are many within my audience that will like the content that Vaush produces. I'm not one of those people, but I'm not a fan because I don't watch much content. And to be honest, at times, Vaush comes across as a bit of a lolcow. The subject matter of the day is going to be somewhat amusing and also a bit convoluted, because there are those who take this from a political perspective, others saying you should fall in line, then there's Tipster. Ethan Klein inserts himself and has a very firm position which I, oddly enough, am on the side of. That might not be what people want to hear. Maybe you want me to say, I support Vaush. I don't. I'm going to try and go through tweets and videos in order.
Ooh, this one? No. Tipster is and Keffels is.
Okay.
If possible, so you can have a semi-accurate timeline as things unfolded, which means that some of these arcs are going to veer, wibbly wobbliness, get back on track and wibble wobble again. And Tipster, because Tipster is becoming quite, well, amusing really. On the folder that was censored at the start were images taken from a genre called lolly. There's also a horse involved in this lolly. Although Vaush did clarify in a video what was in those folders, and I think it best to come straight from the horse's mouth.
Anyway, one of the two images just flatly didn't look like lolly. I don't give a like cope, diamond. I just don't care. Like disingenuous, you know? The other one is like a threesome with two chicks and a guy. And in retrospect, looking at it, knowing now that that artist is a lolicon, yeah, I can see it. When I looked at it, I think the vibe that I got was like short stack, thick kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like the way like goblins get drawn. And you'll have to entertain me for a moment on this presumed shared knowledge.
He's fetish for shit, man. Like he likes goblin sex or something.
But
Like.
that's okay. That's fine. But he's an adult.
Well, that's not even the problem. But
And goblins are pretend.
He's trying to defend having that lolicon on there. Like,
of how goblins get drawn and.
While I fully understand what Rule 34 is, I can promise you at my ripe young age of 38, I did not know there was that. I have learnt something today, Vaush. The red gobbo should never ride again, and the goblin should always be under the thumb of the orcs, for their own safety and so that you can stop cracking one off to them. Now, Tipster, upon seeing this, had tweeted, "Damn it, Vaush. None of this would have happened if you would just watch adult content on your phone like a normal person. Watch on your phone and never save, ever, lol." I can't be the only person that thinks this, but do you have something you'd like to share with the class, Tipster? Your search history, perhaps?
But now, knowing that the artist is a lolicon, which I have been roundly reminded of, obviously knowing that it was intended to be a lolly drawing. So, like, that's how it is, right? It's a drawing, you get it without context. I know that when I saved them because both the drawings have, like, a meaty in it, and I'm a huge size queen. So, like, you look at it in retrospect, and it's like, okay, well, now with the broader context, I can understand how it comes off that way.
As a firm believer in context being fundamentally vitally important to all discourse and understanding one's motivations, I thought it right to play that clip, regardless of my disdain towards the content you have saved on your computer. The problem with this, though, and it doesn't help Vaush, is that years ago, Vaush was, or clips of Vaush were doing their rounds. These clips were of him arguing why ages of consent should be lowered or abolished. They were also out of context, but when one wants to frame an argument, this is what they will use, because you've now just opened the floodgate and you have been trending on Twitter, along with Lolly and other things like Keffels, who I'm blocked by and has been deleting all the tweets associated with this. Thank you very much, Keffels. We really appreciate your involvement. Yes, dickhead. Don't worry, I've got some stuff anyway. But
yeah, there was a moment. One of the issues with Tipster and Keffels is, of course, Keffels is trans. So she, of course, you know, being trans, there's been that whole thing with conservatives using trans as like, you know, they're people that mess with kids. Like they try to name them as pedos.
Yes.
So she's fighting
wrong.
Right. So she's fighting that battle, but Ethan never brought up trans when he was coming after Vaush, but Keffels inserted herself in the conversation on Twitter, saying that Ethan was doing a disservice to trans people when it wasn't him that brought trans people into the discussion. So he eventually like addresses that part of it and says, you know, she's fucked because like I never brought that up, you did. So that's part of the problem with Keffels' position on this. Like she says, well, I know Vaush and he's a good dude, but it doesn't change the fact that like the guy that I know that got caught with child porn was a good dude, but he's a bad dude because he does that shit. And so I no longer associate with him. So you have to find your spectrum where you're going to handle people in your life. They may be good in other assets of their life, but if you find out something like that and you're still like supporting that person, you're just as culpable as he is. And if you're somebody, in my opinion, who is a representative of the trans community, like someone speaking out on their behalf, this is not what you want to attach yourself to.
And that's probably why she got herself
she's
fuck out of Dodge.
She's taking a lot of shit.
Because she's like, you know, I can't have, and they were friends in real life, like, weren't they?
Well, see, I don't know if they've ever met. That's one thing that Ethan, like, she pulled that shit with Ethan because they've been on his show before, both of them. And Kev was like, you know, I thought, you know, we were friends and you called me a hero. And he's like, look, I don't really know you. We've done collabs together, but that doesn't mean I know you. And I'm not going to defend this. Like Vaush, I've had him on my shows too. They actually tried to get Vaush to come on the show to talk about it. And behind, you know, DMs and whatnot, it didn't turn out very well. But again, Ethan's like, look, we're not buddies. Like I've done things with you because we have similar political ideologies, but in the end, like this stuff I can't defend. Like I'm not going to defend this.
And you don't want that attached to your channel. And then like,
and that's part
if I was Ethan and I was Keffels, I would be scrubbing my YouTube as well to get any videos where you guys are collabing, because if Keffels again,
there's no way they're gonna, because everyone knows they.
You just don't want, you want to get as much as possible away.
They just would have been better. Both Tipster and her would have been better off not speaking up on this because it's not going to go well for them.
And honestly, like sometimes people always like when a tragedy happens or like celebrities get caught doing something, and there's always like some PR person who's like, you know, jumping on the grenade for the celebrity, or you see like their Twitters like doing an apology Twitter or whatever. Sometimes it's best to just sit back and not say anything because you draw more attention to yourself.
Because when Keffels did it, she went on Twitter. She ended up having to delete those, but it was too late because people started harassing her.
And
that's
probably
not Ethan's
screenshotting.
And... Yeah. Everyone does that, especially when they cover their ass. Or like they screenshot things, they know people delete them, and they bring them back up to say, "Hey, here's the receipts right here." So yeah, I mean, Tipster and Keffels going to bat for Vaush like they have is not a good look.
Not a good look at all.
But you've got this problem where you've written a check, Vaush, and that check has come back with a receipt and an audit where you're now going to look even more shady, regardless of the context. And I have to say context multiple times because there are some creators who are defending you, like Tipster, because you've been taken out of context. Perhaps we should get to that. H3H3 had gone in on Vaush. Tipster decided to defend Vaush by saying genuinely disappointed seeing what H3H3 Productions did to Vaush earlier tonight. You'd think that after everything Hassan's community, as well as others in the past, have done to misrepresent Ethan, he wouldn't be so quick to do the same to others. Yet here we are. He even used the same out-of-context clips alt-writers have used to defame Vaush time and time again. Whatever this was intended to be, there is one thing for sure. This was not the move, and it was an extremely bad faith misrepresentation of Vaush. Ethan put this on an Instagram story by saying, "Cheers my horse, love ya, no," well, I can't say that word. To which Tipster replied by taking this story picture, on Twitter by saying, "I see Ethan was a big fan of my criticism, lol." Nick Diorio. Now that Tipster has gotten himself into an identical drama for the second year in a row, even after running away to a completely different community of content creators, can we now admit Orgy, Boblax and myself were not to blame, just for the history books? A year ago, and Chris the Narc highlighted this as well in video form.
I need to know, Lolly. 11 months ago. Oh, it's been a year! Oh my god! There's only 13 days. Oh, and he got into another lolicon drama. Are you fucking serious?
Another?
Time is not a line. It's a fucking circle, man.
Tipster got into drama concerning Lolly. He has since aligned with the likes of Keffels, who has had some words on this and we'll get to soon. Tipster as a creator has suffered for it. But we're not done, there's more to this. You see, H3H3 isn't finished with Tipster yet. As Tipster had said, yes, H3, you are losing your mind. You're being extremely bad faith and now everyone is calling you out for it. After all the genuinely good takes you've had over the past year, we expected better from you. After all the good takes, you had to do this. Condemn Lolly. We must draw the line somewhere. I see no errors here with what Ethan Klein says.
Also, what the f is jacketing? Why do you guys have such weird ass expressions for anything, everything? And how often are you being accused of being a that you need a nickname for it? If the jacket fits, you must not acquit.
We were talking about that when we were driving down to see my sister.
Well, yeah, because the thing with Keffels and the conservative streamer, who I can't remember his name, it also involves Shoeinghead, and this is where Vaush's name and Tipster got brought up, just on the back end of it. But it was either Vaush or it was the conservative guy, or maybe it was Shoeinghead. One of them said something about pedo jacketing. That got brought up. That was a term they used.
Yeah, I don't even know what the
And this comes back to Vaush, who throws around the pedo term a lot to conservative people he disagrees with. Look, I'm not conservative, so I don't have any dog in this fight, neither does she. But if you're somebody who does this content for a living,
and you're large and you have a lot of exposure,
and you're throwing around Nazi and pedo, all of a sudden those lose the impact of what they mean
and what they really are.
But now Tipster and Keffels are both upset because now it's being applied to one of their own, and they don't like it. And so, and then of course Keffels being a trans, this, she feels like it's going to hurt her more. But you've inserted yourself into defending somebody who has this shit going on. Like, why would you do that?
Well, has she? You said she separated herself from Vaush now, right?
No, she deleted her tweets, but she's also stated that I don't care if I lose people. It's not for clout. It's not for money. Vaush is a friend of mine. And this is where I think tribes it comes into play. So I've noticed with people on the political spectrum, they oftentimes, this is why I totally appreciate Ethan for calling it like it is, because he could so easily just say, this is a lefty guy that agrees with my ideologies on certain things. I could easily just say, overlook this. Keffels and Tipster are overlooking this because they're in a certain tribe. They don't want it to burn down. And rather than face the honesty that, hey, this guy, like you said, we don't have proof he's actually touching kids, but this is like red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And he got caught either by accident or whatever, the things he says. But people are going to come after this dude. Like now you and I both know 2 weeks from now, this shit's going to be a dead issue. Like it's going to go away. People are going to forget about it. And then they'll come back to it another time. But right now, it's something that I think that should be investigated. Just because, like any other normal person would be investigated.
Yeah, if they were saying these things, and someone reported it, they would immediately gain access to.
And it makes me wonder if anyone's even like flagged YouTube about it, because like I think even though he's probably recording on Twitch, maybe no, he's been banned from Twitch from that shit with Poppy. So like he's no longer there. He used to be in Destiny's and Hassan's like inner circle, and then he did shady things on Twitch and got banned. So now he's on YouTube. So, but I'm surprised if someone hasn't like reported this dude a number of times to YouTube, because YouTube is so finicky. They will copyright you or they will block stuff from you for various things. and they have their own set of TOS rules. So why it is they're allowing this? Like I'm fine with people having free speech, but this is concerning, especially when you're showing shit.
Like, well, you're speaking about a crime,
Right.
and like,
Whether it's cartoons or not, you are showing something that's clearly a crime. So that's
Ethan, I don't know if you realize how optically bad what you just said looks. This looks f***ing terrible, Ethan.
Now, the context for that is Tipster's going to bat for Keffels, because Keffels had been talking about this. Not a joke, that is legitimately what led to that bit. Because Keffels had said, hey Ethan, you didn't address anything I said, I'm not pro-Lolicon, and if I thought Vaush was, I wouldn't defend him. Can you please have a discussion about this instead of putting me on blast to your 2 million Instagram followers and that word jacketing me? This is gross.
Now keep in mind, he's putting her on blast because she's putting him on blast, and she inserted herself into this whole ordeal. Same with Tipster. Neither one of them had to come into this conversation. They chose to come in. So really, in my opinion,
well, it's like you
any
said,
backlash that happens,
it's their tribe that they're
right,
because that's his old tribe.
Right, but any backlash they're getting, because like now she's playing victim. It's like, well, now you've got all your fans coming over here and giving me threats and harassing me. I'm like, well, you're the one. Like, he can't control him. If you're gonna call this dude out when he's actually calling it down the middle, he's telling you straight up. I agree with you on some politics and stuff. I agree that I support trans people, but I don't support that what Vaush is doing. So he's not going to overlook that like those two are, and that's a problem. So like I don't feel bad that people are going after them, like saying we're not going to put up with it. You're not going to defend somebody with CP on their computer and saying these controversial takes. Like, it's not that he's not allowed to say them, but don't be surprised if the feds come knocking at your fucking door.
That led to the jacketing remark. Before that post, though, Ethan had said, I offered Vaush to come on the show to explain to me and my audience how what I said was out of context or dishonest. He declined, because Vaush wants him on his show instead. He also included this image of a jacket with Vaush on it. Not a real photo, obviously. But Tipster will go to defend Keffels because Keffels.
You are talking to a community of people, the LGBTQ community, which are very regularly accused of being and groomers constantly.
Just in case this didn't reach your walnut.
And again, I go back to what Vaush does and Tipster doesn't want to touch on is Vaush does this to people all the time, calling them Nazis and pedos. Like, why aren't you calling Vaush out on this shit? Like, you're okay with calling out Ethan on this, but you're not okay when Vaush does it to virtually every person that disagrees with his takes.
Yep.
So it's a huge hypocrisy here.
Sized brain. No one is calling the LGBTQ community the words you used in that clip. They're associating it with Vaush because they're dealing with the individual and holding them to the mark and a standard they believe should be upheld for all. The court of public opinion does not support Lolly, but for some peculiar reason you are making this into a larger issue, and Tipster, you moron, you may not have noticed, but Keffels inserted herself the moment that H3H3 clarted back. She played victim and said, please don't blast me to your millions of followers. She opened her mouth and wrote a check. The receipt came in an Instagram story post because she's afraid of him. Now you're saying this is a wider issue, but because of other discriminations, we have to let this slide? That's not how this works. For the sake of what Keffels said, the full context of that is in a Twitter versus Vaush video on Bo Black's channel. I'm going to link it in the pinned comment down below, because Keffels has deleted all of her tweets about this. In another clip that was doing its rounds, Vaush tried to explain how it was funny to watch a horse that does anime girls. Tom, a non-bird, had tweeted, having to explain to anyone that you want to be a horse that F's little anime girls is so effing funny. What kind of childhood trauma leads to this?
That's what I
Which
said.
was mocked to high heaven. Bo Blacks, as someone who helped run Vaush's alternate Twitter account for years, this news is devastating. The reference being the Throbbing Horsecock Twitter account. On Ethan Klein's subreddit, an individual posted this. I'm not going to bother reading it to you. You can read it if you like, but it doesn't actually tie in to the more recent videos doing their rounds of Vaush and the content he showed everyone on his computer. Bo Blacks, Did Vaush leaking his content just end the 7-year-long beef between Ethan and Keem? Included in image, Nick Diorio, we forgive Ethan Klein. Keemstar, honestly, right now I do. He's a parent.
Apparently, Keemstar is basically a conservative streamer, whereas Ethan's more leftist, and so they used to have this beef.
Oh, okay.
But now they both agree about with Vaush, so that's why they're kind
So
of
is this what brings the two sides together, disagreeing with Vaush?
right.
Okay, well then, if that's what's gonna take it, like, let's
I mean, they
do
might
it.
disagree politically on a lot of things, but when it comes to CP, they agree, and I'm right with them both. You know, like, yeah, this is a problem.
It's a problem. He's on the internet. It's out there. I mean, we know this stuff is out there, but he apparently seeks it out and then tries to make it like, oh, well, you know, I just like the way orcs are drawn, and this girl looked kind of like an orc next to a big horse cock. So,
Right. And the thing is, like, now there's some debate about the particular girl that was in the photo, like the artist girl, the art girl, which was an anime.
Yeah,
And
it's not.
she's-
It's
and she's right next to
cartoon.
a horse cock.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly the anime girl was a representative of a streamer, a VTuber called Matasuri or something like that.
Okay.
Now I don't know how much of what I heard was true. Initial talk was she's like 16.
Okay.
The real person behind it.
So how did he?
But I'm
get
not
that
sure if that's
picture?
actually fact. Well, someone probably just drew it. Like he said that
It was
somebody
like fan art or something.
Lolicon artist drew it, and he somehow got it. But he tried to play it off like, well, she looked like orc or whatever goblin he was saying.
Oh yeah,
a
goblin. I'm sorry.
But the thing is, if you've ever looked up like a lolly picture, just a general one, no nudity or anything, like it's very childlike. That's why they call it
Yeah,
that.
they got the big eyes and.
So, and even Vaush admits in hindsight, he's like, oh, yeah, you're right. It kind of does. Like, it's like, okay, buddy, you know. But if that was the only thing that ever happened in his life, you could probably give him a pass. Say, somebody just fucking downloaded.
He found like a crazy picture,
right?
And it's a cartoon, and yeah, it's
but
not
as
right.
Omegan says, when you compile that with everything else he's done,
you have a pattern
yes
of behavior
yes
that does not change over a course of time.
and then you add in the fact that you want to be a horse or have a horse cock and do these things like that. It's not a good look.
He understands the sickos need to be
Oh,
stopped.
he calls it a
Twitter,
kink, but
some
I'm like-
ordinary gamer had tweeted or retweeted Keffels in a now deleted tweet on Keffels' part. Seeing some of these leaks and the footage attached to them, even with context, is an incredibly bad look. I don't think Ethan is saying anything out of pocket. Some debate shouldn't be had, and some of the photos stored in that folder is downright vile. And I agree. What debate could there be to be had from a guy who will undoubtedly just shout you down or argue context, semantics, context, pedantic, semantics, context? It's quite circular, have you noticed? Reply from some black guy, yeah, I'm legit confused. Dude has lolly on his computer. How is he not a fan of it? Why else would he save it? Lol. Seems strange as hell that some people are running defense. Somebody defending Vaush said that the fact that Ethan's choosing to punch down like this and jacket people over nothing is inexcusable. His audience is huge. Tipster's honest critique caused him to call Tipster that name too. Those 100 likes really made you feel insecure, Ethan. You pathetic coward. Now this is the argument that because you have more followers, you are punching down. I couldn't disagree with this more. I don't care how big you are, how small you are. Your voice, your opinion, your perspective is vitally important and equal to everyone else's.
I'm just gonna pause this real quick because I want to show you this clip real fast. So I told you how the one VTuber that Vaush was having a problem with called her a Nazi. So she had a funny response, so I thought was really funny.
Oh, no.
So yeah, pull this up. Real
Bring
quick.
her up. Wow, this is like the Jerry Springer show of VTubers.
Oh, I know, isn't it? So yeah, let me see if I can.
Dolores, did you hear what Vaush said about you? Yeah, I think he said I'm a Nazi. That's interesting. Looking good. I think it does look good. Mr. Beast candy bar. Mr. Beast candy bars in F tier. That is interesting. It is interesting. Wait, really? Yeah. Showed up late. How was the chocolate bar taste like shit? The Mr. Beast part tasted like shit. He thinks everyone's a Nazi. That is true. I'm not really concerned if a horse fucker thinks I'm a Nazi though. I don't really
Took life advice from a horse fucker.
Yeah, it was so fucking funny. I saw that. I was like,
The fact you
she's
have more
pretty
followers
clever.
is just an indicator you succeeded more at what you do than anyone else. Simple as that, really. This fallacy is pathetically embarrassing. Retweeted by Erin. It's genuinely hilarious that Vaush sycophants are starting to feel a teeny tiny portion of what Vaush has done to others for years. It's really fun watching his entire community burn to the ground. It's the second community this year I've seen take a bit of a pounding in the past 2 months, and I'm here for it. Now, Vaush over Discord had announced I rescinded the invitation for Ethan to talk on my stream because after doing a completely unprompted, vile, dishonest character assassination for 2 hours, he was playing dumb in DMs, saying he was surprised. I thought he acted in bad faith and wanted me on his stream to provide my opinion. If he
They love that term bad faith, boy, but man, they were the worst at bad faith arguments.
cared before about my opinion, wouldn't he have reached out before the character assassination? What? Then I checked his Insta story, and while he was doing his innocent routines in DMs, he was calling everyone defending me that word, photoshopping pictures of me in a jacket that said that word. Yeah, absolutely dishonest snake, not an ounce of desire for truth in that guy.
I mean, look, is everyone that's defending Vaush, Keffels, or Tipster, pedos, and all this? No, but it's not a good look, and I don't think it's really like I don't think Ethan's really wrong for saying that his fan base, if they're defending him so hard, like maybe they're just into the same shit he is, and it's a real concern. Like, if you can't look at the stuff that Vaush has done objectively and see that the things he says are very problematic and the things that are on his computer are very problematic, forget the horse shit. I don't give a fuck about that. That you can beat that dead horse to death. Dun, 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 but the reality is like, don't defend this stuff when the guy's saying it. He's standing by it. It's not like he's saying they're taking me out of context or they're misrepresenting me, because the reality is
They're taking your words off
they're
of your
looking at the
video.
context, and you're continuing to defend that context. So it's like no one is getting it wrong, but the people that keep trying to defend it.
What I mean, but you know what? At this point, I don't think jokes work with you unless you're the one telling the joke. And there are plenty of people in Ethan Klein's subreddit, the H3H3 one anyway, rage quitting the subreddit and no longer financially, monetarily supporting H3H3 Productions because of his take on this. I'll be honest, if you're a patron.
And Ethan said, you know what? If you're defending that shit, I don't want you.
Yeah, really.
He's like, fuck it. I don't care. I'll take that L right there. You know what I mean?
Mine and you're into lolly, bye. I'm not going to miss you. I promise you I'm not. Now, it's important to note in the H3 After Dark stream, everyone is raging, those that support Vaush here, that at no point were they, in the 10-second clip, they were clarifying the full context. Well, I bothered to watch it, and I can tell you that during 2 hours of it, they made it a point to ensure that it was clarified at every opportunity, because they wanted you to know they were not taking the piss. But by all means, punished Jake here continued to defend Vaush over this. Immediately after this, Vaush then fired up his live stream to claim bad faith because people on Discord told him what Ethan said. As Nick
Yep, that's what I've been talking about. So Ethan does this entire thing, right? This entire video with his group, and they're talking about it, and the guys that he works with got all the context. They went through it all. Vaush didn't take it upon himself to watch it at all. He listened to what people said that did watch it. But how do you know the information that's being conveyed to you is accurate? Because some people don't like Ethan regardless. Like, they'll defend Vaush no matter what. So again,
It was like that thing that we watched last night about the guy who was the kid who was interviewing the college student about J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He said, now, all right,
That's
now,
a great example, by the way.
like, you've never read any of her tweets, and I just want to put this out there. Like, I'm not saying like this is just an example, but the guy was going like, okay, let's break down exactly what J.K. Rowling said, and this person who never listened to anything that J.K. Rowling said or read the tweets
He was listening
like,
to other people.
He was listening to other people and forming his own opinion
based
off of what other people said and kind of being influenced by their opinion. Now, okay, this happens all the time, and that's probably what's happening to Vaush himself.
Well, that's why they say he's gotten lazy, because he
and
won't
his
take the
fans.
time to watch it himself. He doesn't do his own research anymore. He's like, I'll take your word for it. If you tell me the moon exploded, I'm just going to believe you, even though it's still there.
He lets his minions tell him all the secrets, and then he's like, all right, that's it. You're all a P, and I like horsecock.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Curio has pointed out, you've survived off dumb viewers, lack of context, and plausible deniability for years. If you can't be asked to go and watch a live stream in good faith and notice people providing the context so you have the context, chances are your confirmation bias is blinding you. You need to grow up. All this over lolly. The fact you've even got it saved on your computer and then tried to justify it is hilarious. And then to act in bad faith while claiming everyone else is acting in bad faith is hilarious.
So, what's really funny is if you would go on my Google Photos, you'd see 900 pictures of our cats, and there's there's not any adult content on there, but you have some sexy dressed girls and stuff that are all adults, by the way. I feel like if there's one little thing, there's probably more. And if you open the wrong folder, maybe he saved it in the wrong folder and it was there.
Well, the running joke is because when you open up the folder and people did their still.
Of course.
Yeah. It's always there. The internet is forever. So he had 3 different folders for porn, like XXX videos, whatever. And then he had 2023 taxes. And so obviously the girl on Ethan's show was like, well, I bet you all the really hardcore shit's on that taxes one. Yeah. Just renamed it something else. So it's funny. Granted, there's maybe no truth to it.
What's in there, but
if you've got that,
let's really think about that. That is a small, tiny little
morsel.
microcosm of what he might have on his computer that he accidentally opened up. Maybe he has some encrypted files and he didn't get to move it to the encrypted files. If he fully believes that owning CP is okay, then he probably has it there. Where there's smoke,
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's he may not actually be doing anything, but the red flags are there. You have to just acknowledge the red flags are there.
Mm-hmm.
Is this best when he says, I think the whole idea of small streamers being orbiters of big political streamers by defending everything they say or do is super pathetic. You're adults. Form your own opinions instead of clinging on to someone else so much that you end up defending Vaush's lolly, that word with the horse emoji. He did offer a clarification underneath, saying that he accidentally worded it in a way that blamed the bigger streamer for having orbiters. Even I realise that's not what he intended. It's not the streamer's fault. Of course not. Richie Gonzalez had tweeted to anyone going lolicons or in shambles regarding Vaush. Here's a reminder that he was a staunch anti-lolicon who's clearly in denial. Included a video, I believe, of his. Keemstar had tweeted out Vaush's rescinding of invitation to Ethan Klein by saying, Vaush is claiming H3H3 did character assassination. How? Did Vaush get caught with cartoon CP? Yes. Did Vaush admit he was caught? Yes. Did Vaush make multiple public statements about wanting horse cock? Yes. The only one doing character assassination is Vaush himself. To be honest, I thought this fell within the bracket of gaslighting, which, to be honest, makes sense. But I could be wrong. Maybe I misunderstand these words that get thrown around all the time. Now, there has been another suggestion in how Vaush should better handle this because
I thought that was so great. Even though Vaush, I think he came out and said he's not going to sue Ethan and them for defamation because somebody brought it up, said you have a great case for defamation. He doesn't. But Ethan caught wind of that. He's like, oh, you want to sue me? I will crowdfund for you to try to sue me. Trust me. I will have that all day. He was laughing about it.
Yeah, he's putting things out there in public. like in a public
Yeah,
forum.
the evidence is there. Like all Ethan is just walk in and say, "Look, I didn't say anything that wasn't true. These are his words. These are what happened. Here you go. Game over."
H3H3's popularity and success means there's an American thing we can do here.
And let's face it, if no legal authority like investigates Vaush over all this with the shit that's going on right now and YouTube doesn't do anything about it, the last thing that Vaush wants to do is take somebody to court, because even if he tried to take someone as small as
All of
us,
that evidence that would come out about him.
exactly, it's commercial suicide. He would fuck himself. No way he would do it.
I mean an American thing because when you say something nasty about another person that could be considered slanderous, libel, defamation, a lolly suit must take place. So somebody had legit posted, Vaush should legitimately sue Ethan for slander. As nice as the thought would be, I doubt there's enough of a case currently. We'll see how the next few weeks unfold though. No, there is the amount of slander and false accusations are more than enough for a solid lol suit. Ethan Klein saw this and posted it to his Instagram story by saying, I'm begging you, I'll crowdfund for you to sue me. Let's do it. It's my fave. The thing here is,
when you're doing
he
an
won't
investigation
win.
and
Vaush
you're a lawyer, each side has to share their discovery. Like even if it's a lawsuit, you have to be aware of what's going on.
Well, I can't imagine a lawyer also who is going to represent Vaush when he sees like all this. He's going to say, "Look, you're going to lose. Like, there's just stuff here that's very damning that we can't. You know that the opposing lawyers are going to bring up. You don't want this."
And this isn't.
So a smart lawyer would tell Vaush, like, "Don't do it."
And that's the other thing too, is Vaush would probably have to find like a really really good lawyer that he probably can't afford. And you're right, this isn't like a criminal case. Well, kind of is, but it isn't, because he's not technically like caught with anything. That's he supports the crime, but
but if he has more of that stuff, like the lolly stuff, yeah, that's a crime.
But they would have to get the police involved. If this is just a lawsuit about defamation of character, you would like, you don't get a public defender in those cases. So
yep,
he would have to seek out a lawyer to
it'd be pricey no matter what, but he's probably still lose. That's the thing. It's always a gamble. So
because if Vaush is the one instigating the case, he would have to seek out a lawyer.
Yeah.
An expensive lawyer.
Yeah.
that is, Vaush will not be Ethan Klein. Why? Because he had the images on his computer. He's been called out for a personal interest in something that Ethan Klein fundamentally does not personally think it should be acceptable. Are you really going to try for the meme with the jacket? Is that going to be your hook? You can't claim he acted in bad faith because the only source you'll have to cite is a 2-hour live stream where during it, he outright provides the context every single time they play the 10-second clip of you opening a folder with that imagery in it. And you, Vaush, tried to then justify by explaining your reason for preferences and what you really thought it was, but understand now because what the artist really is means that, well, I guess in hindsight that's clearly not what I thought it was in Goblins. Bitch, please. Your stands are embarrassing.
Goblins.
You're almost as cringy to me as those who blindly defend Taylor Swift. Can we stop this now? Like, fam, I've seen too much of Taylor Swift on my timeline of late. It's doing my head in. And the Vaush stuff is laughable because I don't think you get just how dumb you look and how dumb your fans look. But go figure, when one thinks they're always right, they can never understand how they could ever be wrong.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's amazing. I do have more of that other one if you want to watch some more of that with Kristen Arg, but that was really kind of a breakdown of a lot of the stuff that's going on. And you know, even now, like supposedly there's more stuff that's coming out. Like apparently Keffels and Tipster are still yapping, and there's still people doing like streams on that shit right now. But it's such a huge rabbit hole with this. And it blew my mind. Like, I'm like, at first I thought, okay, dude got caught with some porn. But as I kept listening to more, and these guys are.
And he's these are things that are literally coming out of his mouth.
And then even if you're going through all that, then I find out, oh, he sexually harassed a girl and another girl, and then just a simple like the feminist video, like where he's just degrading this chick because he disagrees with her take about how she feels about male feminists. As I said, I don't pose myself as a feminist, but I know that many feminists in my life, and I was an Emma Watson fan for quite a long time, so I know how they behave and how men or male feminists behave, and the way that he behaves is not what a feminist would be. So it's really weird that this guy claims to be this person that loves everybody, stands up to everybody,
Super liberal.
yeah, he's got all these morals, and it's just, and then you have all this baggage that comes with this guy, and I'm like, I know that no one's perfect, but the stuff that you keep doing over the course of the last 4 years, it's not just one time here, and it's always a similar theme with the kids. And now we have the picture, and so you can't be mad when people are now calling you out on this shit. Like, there's something going on. You
So
probably
when did-
nailed it. It's probably something from childhood.
When did all of this start leaking out? Like in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just
A lot of it was earlier this week. That's when it really kind of blew open.
I'm just curious because, there are federal agents who are always monitoring the internet.
And that's probably why
And
they're trying so
especially-
hard to cover it, because he's like, Keffels and Tipster, they don't want him to get investigated, or he's trying to, like, there's no way he can play it low. Like, everybody's talking about this. Everybody.
So I'm just curious if this will turn into some kind of criminal investigation. And I'm also
And I'm all for it. Like, I'm
also curious if he like rips out his hard drive and shreds it.
Oh, they'll find it. They know how to find that shit.
I don't know, shreds it, burns it, and then
Well, he might, but either way, like, look, regardless, something needs to happen. Like, I'm not one to say that who needs to be deplatformed or taken off, but does YouTube have any kind of moral ethics of themselves and any integrity? Like, obviously you want to support free speech, but when you have somebody with this kind of like weird shit going on, that's like beyond weird and goes into the CP territory, well, then you're just in a big violating of other things here. This is more than just free speech. This is like really dangerous stuff, dangerous territory to be into. And whether, as you said, whether he's trying to be a shock
edgy,
jock,
yeah.
or edgy or whatever, like, this is not the route to go, man. This is really not the route, the way to go with this stuff. So
it shouldn't be his hill to die on.
Yeah,
I believe
yeah.
that how could if you say I believe that a child and an adult can have a beneficial sexual relationship, that does not mean oh god, what you think it means. Like, dude, this guy is seriously fucked.
So yeah, that's all I got. I'm probably still gonna doing more research on this just to see what else comes out.
See what else what else we can find down the rabbit hole tonight.
But I think in the future, Neko and I, we have a couple of trailer reactions I want to do with her. One is for Wicked. We got a little bit of a glimpse on Super Bowl,
Do you have
but
like the full trailer?
yeah. And the other one is The Fall Guy, which might be a movie about the TV show from the 80s.
Oh.
But the reason why it might pique Neko's interest is because the lead actor is Ryan Gosling. So now I think Steve Majors was the original guy in the show, but this is Ryan Gosling in this. So I have not watched it. I have no idea about it. So we'll try to set that up either tomorrow afternoon or maybe sometime next
We're
week.
busy tomorrow.
Yeah, well, yeah. But next week I am definitely busy too. I also have 2 p.m. on Wednesday the 21st. Preston, Samurai Guy, Kevin Lambert from the Entertainment Headquarters, and myself will be reviewing First Blood, Sylvester Stallone.
So did I tell you that Ryan Gosling is like a huge Rambo / First Blood / Sylvester Stallone fan?
It makes sense because of if you look at the way he was kind of dressing in Barbie, it made sense.
And that's how it came up. I think, and he told Sylvester like when he was a kid, he would just dress up like Rambo, and so Sylvester Stallone said, if anybody ever wants to be Rambo, you can be Rambo, and I would love to see anything that Ryan Gosling is in.
Then Thursday, 22nd, I will be again guesting on Samurai Channel as we do a versus with Jason Statham's The Beekeeper versus The Transporter. So
Okay, I've never seen The Beekeeper.
I have to watch it. I'm gonna have to rent it because it's not free yet. Oppenheimer did come out today, though, I think, as a freebie, so we might want to watch that. But yeah, The Beekeeper, I gotta watch that, and then we'll do the verses on Thursday. Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, Neko, myself, and Mr. Lambert from Entertainment Headquarters are going to do a review of the Monarch series, Legacy of Monsters. And then later at night, this could be tentative, but I think it's time that we got back to this a little bit. Neko and I will be doing Classic Reflections, King Diamond's Them. So that will be in the works. And then the following week, which is towards the end of the month, on the 29th, I'm going to be doing a new Lone Wolf with Dub. I'm going to do Anbach review of that movie.
Anbach is good.
And then Mr. Lambert and I will do the top 10 sci-fi movies in the past 15 years. So this isn't like you aren't going to be able to use Aliens or Close Encounters or Star Wars.
The last 15 years. So that would be
basically up to 2012 or 10.
I'm trying to think, like in the last 15 years, sci-fi has kind of been. I mean,
I have my list already, so I already know what mine are. But
so
I have some runners up and all this other stuff.
Are you thinking like? So are you thinking sci-fi is like really specific, or can you be like?
It could be like it's loose. So like Inception could be considered kind of sci-fi, or Turbo Kid. You remember that one? So there are certain things of the movies that we could use as a gauge here. So I do have my top 10.
Because I always kind of like put sci-fi and fantasy, kind of like it'll be like sci-fi / fantasy. But to me, fantasy is the shit that I don't like. Fantasy is the Lord of the Rings and horses and bullshit.
Yeah. Horses.
Hit my horse is amazing. Give it a lick.
It tastes just like raisin.
Have a stroke of its mane, it turns into a plane, and then it turns back again when you tug on its winging. Do you think so? Well, I better not show you where the lemonade is made. Sweet lemonade, sweet lemonade.
Now, please, no one show Vaush that. I don't want him to
might
get
make him
overly
excited.
Yeah, do not do that. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for checking this out. If you enjoy the content, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.
Give us a little bit of likes. What are we? We're orbiters.
No, we're not orbiting anybody. We orbit ourselves. But I do think you guys should check out content from H3 Podcast, Chud Logic, Krista Nark, and Megan Chud. Yeah, he's a British dude. He's pretty cool. But yeah, I'll put their links up in the description there. They have a lot of videos on this stuff, far more detailed than what we gave you tonight. But we're just trying to cover a little bit of it just to give you an idea on this channel, like what the fuck is going on out there in the streamer world. So thank you all. See you next time here on the Metal Time Radio Podcast. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep it metal.